Today, we are moving on in John, and we already went through 5 chapters, and now we are in a 6th chapter. And this is not the first miracle Jesus did, but it is one of the biggest miracles. What many don't know how to describe, or they don't know how that happened. Some of the miracles you can discuss, like it was because of that or situation, but this was feeding of 5,000 men near Bethesda. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right in English. Feeding 5,000 men. It's probably, with families and children, there was probably 20,000 people gathered, and they were all fed. And you probably know the story, but we will read it, and then we will look through the things what God point out for me, and I hope that will speak to you. Okay, so John 6, 1 to 15 we will read. Sometimes after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of the Galilee, that is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the sign he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up to the mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than a half year's of wages to buy enough bread for each of one of to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon's Peter, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barleys of loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intend to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. So this is the story. You might have heard it before, but there was, and you might be confused because sometimes in a Bible it say 4,000, 5,000. It is the same miracle. It is a different miracles. Yes, there was 2 miracles of feeding crowds. One was 5,000. This is the one, and there is another one who is described by only in 2 Gospels. And as there were in that time. There were 4,000 men, so around 16,000 people. And it was in different place. And these 2 miracles have some significance in it. And those 5,000 miracles, and this is some theology part. And I just want to share that with you because it is very interesting. But it is not all. It is not the main message what I want to share today. But some theologians, and most of them, think that the reason why behind it that Jesus fed 5,000 and 4,000, first of the miracles happened in Bethesda, what was very Jewish place. And the second happened in Decapolis. The 4,000 people was fed in Decapolis. It is not a place where Jews was living. It is many Romans and Samaritans and other people live. So Jesus performed the second feeding among Gentiles, and the first it happened among Jews. And some people think that the reason behind the number 5,000 is because of the five books of Old Testament, of the law, the Genesis, Exodus, and following. And there is some other sources and numbers playing with, 5 bread and two fishes, and when the 4,000 were fed, there was 7 breads, and stuff like this. So there is very interesting part of this, and I don't want to come into, and I'm not very good with numbers and stuff, but it is very interesting things how it all means something. And this is so different from our culture. Sometimes when there is too much going on and too much things going, like, sometimes I feel like these things are superstitious, like the people are doing this because of this, and the number how many times you need to clean yourself, old traditions. For me, from my point, my culture, it looks like a superstitious, but I believe that there is some significant stuff in this story, and especially, for example, another example is that in the end of the feeding of 5,000, when everybody was fed, there was 12 baskets filled up. For us, 12 baskets. But the theologians all agree that it means the 12 tribes of Israel. And there is some significant stuff for Jewish people. This should be the sign. When they see the numbers, when they saw the numbers, they saw the things, the miracles, and the time when Jesus did all this, it should be a significant for them to understand why He's doing what He's doing and what is happening, and then that He's real Messiah. But I don't want to focus on that part. I just want to give you the introduction and the understanding, because I was always confused as a child hearing about feeding 5,000 and 4,000, and I was like, make your mind, Pastor. One time you're saying 5,000, one time you're saying 4,000. Like, I never realized there was a 2 of them when I was a child. So I just want to make sure we all understand there was a 2, and they were all significant. And one were more focused on Gentiles, one were more focused on Jews. And we are now in that part where it's all matter for Jews, and the significance number are meant a lot for Jewish nation culturally. So where we are in the story, we need to get into context of this story. Jesus, we're reading from the start that Jesus went to the mountainside. He wanted to spend time with His disciples. The reason why He wanted to spend time with His disciples, because it was right after the news what He got that John the Baptist was killed by Herodes. So Jesus was very sad, very disappointed. That's why, in the first, it said sometimes after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore. He said that Jesus went up to the mountains and sat down with His disciples. He want to spend time with His disciples. And the reason was not only that John Baptist was dead, and it meant a lot for them as a followers and as the whole movement. John the Baptist was part of the movement. Was also that the reason why He want to gather with them, because before He sent them by 2, and He sent the 12 into the different Jewish villages to speak and proclaim the good news that Jesus and the Messiah came. So all the disciples were excited, were perform miracles and saw things happen, and people turned and understanding that Messiah came, and they came to Jesus. Same time with them from this trip, the news about the John the Baptist who died came to Jesus, and all that Jesus decided, let's go to the mountainside. Let's go spend some time. I want to ask you some question. I want to talk to you. I want to discuss how it was, how your mission trip went when you went to these villages. I want to hear. And also He was sad. So He want to be alone. But this wasn't it wasn't possible. Because after disciples, probably when they went through villages and performed miracles, they heard about Jesus coming, and disciples was like, hey, follow me, I will bring you to the Messiah, I will bring you to Jesus. So there was a bunch of people following disciples when they were maybe from distance, maybe just speaking with them and continuing the discussion what they have in their villages and about Messiah, about the right time. And there was 20,000 people. That's a huge crowd. I don't know how Jesus was able to teach them when he had no microphone. There is maybe 20 of us, and I'm using microphone. There was 20,000 of them, and he didn't use microphone. And I don't know how he did it. But so there was multitude following them, and it is interesting that all four gospels describing this miracle. They're all describing this miracle from almost identical like circumstances, but some are different. Some sentence and some questions, and so when Jesus saw this multitude following disciples, he decided, and one of the Gospels say that he was moved by Spirit because they were like a sheep without the shepherds. And he felt compassion. That's why he decided, I will teach you. But some of the Gospels say it was late afternoon or it was late in the day, and they need to, somehow they need to survive. They were not in the village, they were not in the place where there was food or stores. So, and in John, Jesus was the one who was asking questions, how we will feed these people. But in other Gospels, there is, in other two Gospels, is the disciples who coming to Jesus and asking him, Jesus, what are we going to do with these guys? Like, the store is far, we have nothing, what we will do? And Jesus knew, and honestly, I don't know who to believe. If we should believe John or if we should believe Matthew, and I don't think that really it is the point, for us to see. But I can say that both there was a problem raising in that moment. There was 20,000 people. Approximately 20,000 people sitting, listening, devoted, following Jesus. They were crowded, they were close because they want to hear Jesus. Everybody was quiet. Everybody they were following, they were excited. And our disciples felt responsible. It wasn't from unbelief that the question was raised. Maybe Jesus asked the question first, like John describing for us. But maybe it was between disciples what they were, or he saw disciples to be concerned. So that's why other gospel writers like Matthew and Mark describe it differently. But there was a problem. How many of us are in a situation when we have a problem? When there is a problem raised, and we are responsible. We are asking the question, how we will do it. Is that question without the faith? I will say no. These disciples, they have a plenty of faith. They just came from a mission field when they saw healings and they saw some other stuff. They spent with Jesus already, more than 1 month, more than 6 months. They were walking with Jesus, so they knew who He is. Right after this passage, right after this miracle, Jesus was asking them, "Do you know who I am?" And Peter say, "You are Messiah." So they were getting, and they know, they understand that He's Messiah, that He is the King. And that question wasn't out of no faith, or how to say, like without the faith, when they were asking how we will do this, how we will feed 20,000 people. It is the same with you. You asking yourself, how I will find a job. In the moment when you live with Jesus for 10 years and you know that He will provide, but you're still asking a question. You still are the one who is responsible. The one who is, I think we as a Christian, maybe more than anybody else, we want to be responsible because we see that in the Bible. That we should be responsible, that we should, follow the rules and follow the things. And we try to do it the best as possible. And there were some real concern about this. Jesus, even in one of the Gospels, when they were asking this, how we will feed them, Jesus responded in one of the Gospels, he'd say, you feed them. You provide for them. How many of us ask God question about our problem? We were looking for a solution. And Jesus or God or the voice in you, the quiet voice responded with the question, with the point mark on you. It happened to me. When I was asking, I remember one right now, because I didn't have prepared that. But I remember one, when I was sitting in a car, came back from a mission field. I might have said that before, sorry if I repeat my stories. And I was sitting in a car and I listened to the radio and there was some advertisement for work. And I was like, we just came from a mission field and all my wish for my life, all the things what I want to do, all my career, you can say, was focused on mission for God. That was all I want to do, and nothing else. I never want to be a firefighter or policeman or the garbage man or nothing. None of these as a child. I always want to be a missionary. So I was 30 plus years and 35, and my life, my whole dreams for my life went out of the chimney, like we say in Slovak, And I was sitting in a car, driving, thinking what I will do next. I don't know. Should I get employed somewhere? No problem with that. I was employed before I start this job. I have no problem to work. But what I will do, what is my focus? What is my area of the work? I can barely speak English. Maybe I can use some. So I heard the advertisement about Amazon. It was just opening with the Galantar, Sereď area, Nitra and stuff. And so I was like, God, should I apply for this job? And the voice I heard, it wasn't from radio. It wasn't like a loud voice or nothing. It was like, and I don't know if I say it right in English, but didn't I care for you till now? And I was in front of the question. It was the same like disciples were asking Jesus, after all these miracles Jesus was performing, they were asking, what we will do. And Jesus is like, you feed them. Didn't I, didn't you see? Didn't you saw all things I did for you? Were you not present when I changed the water for wine? Was not you present when I healed the sick? When I cast the demons? You were without me in those villages and you performed miracles. We love miracles. We love miracles because we think we will be stronger in the faith after miracle will happen. But we will be doubting every other obstacles, every other problem what will come in front of us if we not learn how to trust God. The miracles are not solutions. Jesus is solutions. The miracles are coming because of Jesus' solution. And I don't know what is your challenge, what is your obstacles. I very doubt that any of us need to feed 20,000 people this afternoon. But there might be a bigger, from your point of view, bigger challenge, bigger problem. What is waiting for you this week, next month, next year? The miracle is not solution. Jesus is. So are you ready for the miracle? We should be ready for Jesus. We should be ready for His presence. And like we quote all these verses in Bible, that now I forget the verse, so I shouldn't probably share. But when we find Jesus, we find everything. Sometimes you have all what is needed to fix the solution. You have your five loaves and you have your 2 fishes. Whatever that means for you in your problem. You're waiting for a miracle. You're holding it. But you need Jesus to perform the miracle. The interesting part is that when they were sharing, what Jesus was breaking the loaves, the bread, and giving fish, and I don't know how that was actually, imagine you are a disciple. I try to imagine when I was disciple, and I will receive like a plate or whatever. They were serving like a leaf or whatever. They got a little bit of fish and bread, and one of the Andre, he take it, he gave it to a man. He came back, and there was other 12 disciples going, and taking, and he's like, whoa, it's like 3 fishes. Like we should be out of it, but he's still coming. It's still coming. And there was 12 full baskets of leftovers afterwards. From 5 breads and 2 fishes. You have what you need to have. God prepared you for the problem, what is ahead of you, before. And if you're looking just for a miracle, that's not solution. You need Jesus who will perform that. Jesus who will get the glory out of that. And that's the last thing I saw on this story. What very interests me is that when Jesus performed this and everybody was fed and tired and probably were some people Sunday afternoon, their eyes were going down and somebody was too excited about that miracle. And maybe some of them in that 20,000 people crowd, they don't even realize that miracle happened. They didn't even hear that there were, 5 breads. They were just like, oh, give me the plate. Oh, second plate, and they were just eating. They didn't even know that the miracle was performed. Some of them saw that miracle and they were like, yo, make him a king. And this part very interesting because this sometimes happen to us, that especially when the miracle's happening, we kind of get partially the glory for the miracle. And I just heard briefly story, not from the person who shared it, but it was my friend was in the States in one of the mission conference, and he heard the story about the guy who was going to perform a miracle, and there was sorry, I have no details of that story, but I will share what I heard. There was a lady or a girl, younger girl, she died, and this pastor, this missionary who was speaking, and my friend here it, it was somewhere at the mission field in Africa, and this guy was there in the village where the girl died, and he went and he was going to pray, and then they brought the girl in the middle of the village. They lay her down, and all the elderly people were there, ladies, and everybody was crying, and he felt like, as a missionary, as a Christian, he should need, and he felt that like a sense of like I will pray for a miracle of raising her from death. So he started praying and praying and praying, and this girl sat down and then went back and died. And like it was just nerves, and she wasn't raised from death. And this guy, as a missionary, the guy who was praying, and he was like, God, what's up? It was, you almost did it. And the question what from God he received was, tell me what you will do, what you would do if that girl is raised from death. And he said, I will share that story, and I will write the emails about what happened, how I was praying, and how these, girls was raised from death. And the message what he received from God is like, it's. I never heard it before. It's God spoke to him and he say, if you want to share for my glory, I will not share my power. And I think Jesus was in very similar situation. He was Son of God. He was 100% man, 100% God in that moment when he performed the miracle. But it wasn't his time. He wasn't in that moment like he was on the cross when he died for all of us. He cannot receive all the glory for the miracle. He knew that. That's why he ran away from all the glory he was waiting for him, for all the worship songs or whatever, they might took him and they might feed him with better food or whatever. They were going to make a king from him by force, because they thought he came to overcome the physical kingdom. But Jesus didn't do that, because he knew that the glory belongs to Father, belongs to God. And through all these messages we're hearing from John, we're hearing the same message. Jesus is referring to God, referring to his Father. I'm just doing what I saw my Father did. I'm doing what he taught me to do. So, I believe God has solutions. With him, we have solutions. I also believe that we shouldn't underestimate what we have and how God prepared us. He gave us talents, he gave us positions, he gave us places, gave us friends, fellowship, family. It's all around us. We cannot look up only. We need to see what we have. The 5 breads and 2 fishes. And one thing, what is very important, when the solution will come, glory belongs to God. Don't forget that. And gave him thanks for all we have and all you have. And I hope that the things you are challenging, you will see solutions in God. And you will be able to praise him and give him the glory, because he deserves. Father, thank you for being faithful to us, for being open to us, and first that you are solution. You not only have solutions for us, but you are our solution. Father, help us to understand that when we trust in you, you are the one who's changing the circumstances. Father, also help us to see the things around us. We all have the 5 breads and 2 fishes. We all have the things we need. But they might look small, they might look unappreciated. We underestimate them. But with you as a solution, we are able to conquer the world. We are able to find the solution for the bigger and a smaller problem in our lives. Father, help us to also give you glory for all you do. Thank you for all the ministry people who working from setup, from music and media and refreshments and all these things, all the little details, and even people who are not here and did the graphic and Pastor Gary and Joy who are praying for us and part of this, Father. Help us as while we doing this for you, we will always give you glory for all you do. Because Father, you deserve it. You are the one who changed our lives. It's not the church. It's not us forcing that belief, but it is you who changing us, Father. Help us to understand you more. Help us to follow you more. Help us to be like Jesus. Spend time with you and give you all the glory. In your Son, Jesus' name I pray. Amen.